Good morning. My name is Lisa Bender. I'm the president of the Minneapolis City Council. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the City Council for February 14th and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Ellison is absent. Goodman?
Present.
Johnson?
Present.
Palmisano?
Present.
Gordon?
Here.
Kano is absent. Reich?
Here.
Fletcher?
Here.
Jenkins is absent. Schrader?
Here.
Warsami is absent. Cunningham?
Present.
President Bender?
Here.
There are 9 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. The agenda for today's meeting is before us. Are there any amendments to the agenda from council members? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries and the agenda is adopted. Next, we have the minutes from our regular meeting of January 31st for acceptance. May I have a motion to accept those minutes? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries and those minutes are accepted. And finally, we have the petitions, communications, and report to refer to the proper committees. May I have that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries and those referrals are made. The next order of business is reports from our standing committees. We'll begin with the report from the Committee of the Whole that will be presented by the Vice Chair of that committee, Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. The Committee of the Whole is bringing forward one item for approval today, which is directing the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department staff and the Development Finance Division staff to provide a report to the Committee of the Whole at its February 26, 2020 meeting that shows the balance of unspent funds, both contracted and uncontracted, held by neighborhood organizations as of December 31st, 2019. And I will move approval of that item.
Councilmember Cunningham has moved approval of that staff direction. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to, wait, did you want to speak? Okay, so I wanted to circle back as one of the co-chairs, myself and Budget Director Micah Innermill are the co-chairs for the city's steering committee for Neighborhoods 2020. One of the reasons why we brought it before the Committee of the Whole is to be able to get some guidance from city council members around what folks would like in terms of next steps. So really where we are right now is we're kind of at a fork in the road in terms of either we're funding a citywide network of neighborhood organizations that are leading engagement as an extension of the city, or we are looking to have neighborhood organizations really focus on furthering racial equity through civic engagement at the neighborhood level, focused on the community. And so we really need some guidance from council members about what they would like to see, because that will impact the funding formula and how, generally speaking, funds are weighted. So if folks would like to have that discussion now, that's cool. We also are available to have conversations in the steering committee if any of my colleagues are so interested. So really, that will be helpful, that guidance from City Council, so that the steering committee can continue the work forward. We would rather have this conversation now and get this guidance now, rather than having it come before the full City Council once all of the work has been created and then have that discussion. So we would like to get that guidance. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Cunningham. I did put myself in queue and see that I have a couple colleagues also interested in speaking. I thought the report was very useful and appropriate to have at Committee of the Whole, as Councilmember Cunningham described, specific to the Race Equity Subcommittee. It was clear that there's more need for discussion and as you mentioned, guidance on how neighborhood organizations are envisioned to operate in the future. To me, that is really inextricably linked with how we as a city enterprise intend to do community engagement going forward. I think it would be helpful to have a discussion back at the Works Home Committee, more specific to that piece of direction, rather than trying to do something today. I think there was a lot of information shared with council members at the committee of the whole, but we didn't have enough time for like a full discussion in order to give policy direction today is my kind of assessment of what happened at COW. So I thought it was really helpful to have that receive and file there, but would recommend, kind of further discussion and action back at the home committee on that policy direction as a next step. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. I think it's totally appropriate that we have this discussion at the committee too, but since it was offered, I thought that I could weigh in here because it's also fine if we talk about things here. My opinion, since you've asked for it, is that we absolutely have to do both of those items. I think it would be unfortunate if we imagined it was an either-or situation somehow. So I think we can do both, and we have already set out in our comp plan. We have a policy about this. We've listed this as a priority. We have a framework that we've already approved, a resolution that Council Vice President Jenkins and I authored that outlined this, and I think we've kind of had the discussion, and I think the discussion is we want to do both of those things, and I think we can find a way to do both of those things effectively. And I really appreciate the work of the steering committee and everybody involved. And I'm also looking forward to what's been laid out really clearly as an opportunity to gather community input in the weeks ahead. And I think the schedule is we wouldn't be approving anything for at least a month, coming back to us with more guidelines. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with the sentiments of the Council President as well as the sentiments of Councilmember Gordon. I feel like that folks who have been doing work in neighborhoods for a long period of time need to have the opportunity to speak to us. They've already been asked, let's see, their report's been shot down, the person who wrote the report's been criticized, and now we're talking about it in a council meeting instead of at a committee meeting, which is where it probably belongs in the first place. So I would urge the committee to take this up and ask people who have been involved in neighborhood organizations and those that have not and have been critical also to feel free to come to committee and have a public hearing where people can have their voices heard, because I feel like the process that was conducted by Cura was not completely inclusive of the work that neighborhoods have done. Clearly, they don't feel that way. So we can keep saying, well, we gave them a chance. They don't feel that way, and we have to understand where they're coming from. And I think it's important for us not to just talk about it in a council meeting when none of them know any of this is going to be discussed, but bring it back to committee where it rightfully belongs. I appreciate the council president's suggestion.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the Committee of the Whole report? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. My speaker management is having some problems, so I appreciate being recognized. And I agree with my colleagues. I think it makes sense to have the discussion in the home committee. The one thing I would say is that we don't limit, when we're thinking of neighborhood associations as a citywide system, that we don't limit it just purely to community engagement. I think one of the huge values is neighborhood associations are a way to bring neighbors together to work on issues that are important to them within their own community. And I've seen so many grassroots initiatives, programs, help and assistance for fellow neighbors that is so robust and beyond just being an engagement vehicle for the city in terms of organizing meetings around new development, around crime and safety, those sort of things. And so I would just urge my colleagues to think of all the many different ways that neighborhood associations do allow individuals to really get involved in their community. And I think what we all recognize up here is there is an opportunity to make sure that everyone within the community feels connected in that way and is able to participate in that same way that others have enjoyed as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I don't see any. So then Councilmember Cunningham has moved the Committee of the Whole report. Clerk, please call the roll. Sorry.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
Carries, and that report is adopted. Next, we have the report from the Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee, given by the Chair, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing 8 items forward for approval this morning. The most notable item is item number 1, which is the reappointment of Kim Keller as Director of Regulatory Services. I do want to just make a few comments about that. Item 2 is Mary Ellen's Bistro. Item 3 is a license for butcher salt. Item number, which is really a cool thing, they were a food truck and now are becoming a bricks and mortar restaurant, which is great. Item 4 are the license approvals for liquor. Item 5 are the hours of operation for Quincy Hall. Item 6 are grant applications to Hennepin County's Environmental Response Fund. Item 7 is a contract amendment with Employ Milwaukee. And item 8 is a values and goals of CPED small business statement and kind of a path forward as it pertains to next steps on working with small businesses. So I would move items 1 through 8 for approval, and with the president's approval, I just want to say a few words about Kim Keller.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am just really excited, as were all the members of the committee, actually, to be able to have a public hearing and have such positive feedback about the work of Kim Keller. Feels like we were just here talking about Kim 6 months ago, because we were. She had an interim appointment, and this is her first full appointment. I think the thing that for me about Kim is that she leads an agency that has a troubled leadership past. This is an organization that it's taken multiple leaders to kind of right the ship, and Kim Keller is the right person right now for this job. If you've ever heard her speak in committee or have worked with her collaboratively on any issues in your ward, you'll know that she is someone who is intensely real and honest and understanding of the goals of the city. She operates with race equity as her #1 core value and has led her team towards doing more of that work in everything that they do. There have been a lot of major successes under her leadership only in a 6-month period. I'll note that as an example, and it might sound trivial, animal control has adopted more animals than ever before in its history, and the euthanasia rate is lower than it's ever been in the history of animal control. And as it pertains to the Friends properties, she and the city attorney's staff have been able to negotiate with the Friends side renter protections that will last longer than her appointment, ironically. And so she is also an incredible partner with the housing staff at CPED. She works really well with the other department heads. And I think what I'm most proud of, perhaps, is I remember when she first came to work here for my colleague in the 10th Ward. So she was a policy aide who did a lot of work in a very difficult ward at a difficult time, and worked her way through the city administration, leading and taking advantage of opportunities that women have in our city to rise up. And she was able to prove that women can work their way through the system and become leadership in the city in a really authentic way. So could not be happier about how her work has been received. I am not surprised with regard to the job that she's done, because I've known her for many years and known her to be a really inspirational and transformative leader. I'm really proud of this appointment, and I know people on our committee. It was really a wonderful response from every member on the committee, and so I would urge your support today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to this.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman, for taking that time. I think it is really important. I also put myself in queue to speak on item 1, and just want to thank Director Keller for jumping in to a department with the spirit of taking a new look at old problems. Everything from a massive budget hole that you inherited in the department, which we worked together, the council, the mayor, and you under your leadership to solve over time in a way that I hope and think created stability for your staff. I appreciate so much that the way that you lead is really staff-centered, and that when we're working on policy change or systems change, I've seen you time and time again in a very short period of time in leadership really engage staff and bring them into the center of how that change will happen within the department. So you're leading in a way that is values-based, that's bringing forward creative ideas, that's leading in a time where race equity is front and center and demands that we change how we're doing things, but also doing it in a way that invites your staff in and helps everyone shape that change. And I think it's transformational leadership. So I'm so excited to see you continue in this role. You have built an enormous amount of trust with partners in the community. You've taken on some very specific challenges with the Friends properties and brought us creative ideas. But I think what will be the most lasting is these sort of day in and day out systems within our departments that make the biggest difference. Your staff stop me in the hallway sometimes to tell me how the renter first policy is working and excitedly telling me how they've avoided evictions in just the first few months of that policy being in effect. And those are the day-to-day things that really make a difference in the lives of our constituents that we're all here to serve. And since Councilmember Goodman mentioned it, on a personal note, when I was a new council member in a pretty tough ward with 2 babies, you took the time to support me and to offer your experience in that ward. You've mentored my staff, and I think a lot of our staff with your experience on the 3rd floor. So I think your leadership extends beyond this, the specific check mark of your director role well into leading, being an important leader throughout our community, a really inspiring leader, I think, for the women in our city enterprise, which only make up 30% of our staff. And in a time when we're losing women leaders, I think it's really important to acknowledge we have 3 amazing women directors up for reappointment today, and all of whom stand out and shine. So thank you very much for your leadership. I'm very happy and proud to support your reappointment today. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing none on the EDRS agenda, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsame.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries. That report is adopted. The next report is from the Enterprise Committee, given by that committee's chair, Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam President. The Enterprise Committee brings forward 6 items for your consideration this morning. Item number 1 is vacation leave benefits for appointed employees. We had some more conversation about that yesterday at the study session with a lot of attendees. Item number 2 is a contract amendment with the Laboratory Information Management System services for the Police Crime Lab. Item number 3 is a contract amendment for our 311 Lagan system. Those are the call screens. Item number 4 is a contract for a software solution for utility billing in the public service building. Item number 5 is Councilmember Fletcher's data privacy principles resolution. And I would invite him to speak to that. And item number 6 is a staff direction to consistently and transparently measure our data practice requests at this committee going forward. I submit all items for approval.
Councilmember Palmisano has moved the Enterprise Committee report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Bender. With your indulgence, I'm going to take a minute to thank staff for about a year and a half of work that went into these data privacy principles. So especially want to thank Casey Carl and Christian Rommelhoff, who have put a lot of time and energy into really studying this issue and making sure that we're moving forward with this the right way. Beth Cousins and Arrow Kilkson and Arrow's team in IT. Former city coordinator Nuria Rivera Vandermeide, who started this project, and then Andrea Larson, who picked it up and has been working on it since, and Susan Trammell in the attorney's office, who really make up the core information governance team for our city. So this is an exciting opportunity. It's not something that's generated a lot of heat or debate, but it's something that we've worked on kind of methodically. And I want to thank the department heads that took the time to really think about how this was going to impact their department and give us feedback on this so that we know kind of in each part of the enterprise how they're going to engage with this policy. And thank our colleagues in Seattle who gave us some advice. We spent some time on the phone with them because they're a little bit ahead of us on this issue. And I also really want to thank community advocates at ACLU of Minnesota who gave us kind of a template language to start with, and then Restore the Fourth and the Minnesota Coalition on Government Information. And I think they've all been extremely helpful in moving this forward at various phases. So this is an exciting moment for us, I think, this is the first time that we'll say as a council, data privacy is something that we're going to consider whenever we're considering new technology, new processes, and new policies. We're going to think about how are we protecting people's personal information as we implement new ideas at the city. And it's so important right now because we really are moving more and more towards data-driven decision-making, which is exactly what we should be doing to be a smart, responsive city and to really make good decisions. But as we absorb more data and generate more data, we need to be more consistent and thoughtful about how we manage that data. And I'm excited that we're working together today to say this is something we care about and this is something we're going to move forward in a consistent way with in the future. So thank you all for engaging with us.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there any other discussion? Councilmember Gordon.
Well, while I was listening to everybody get thanked, I thought it was important that we thank Councilmember Fletcher for bringing this forward. I don't think any of the staff would have started grappling with this issue, and I'm not sure that it would have been a priority for any of us. But yet it's a really pressing matter that I think we need to think about better and more carefully. So thank you so much for engaging in this work and taking the time and coming up with a cutting-edge policy that may need refinement into the future, but is really an excellent place to start with.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries, and the report is adopted. Next is a report from the Housing Policy and Development Committee given by the Chair, Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, President Bender. The Housing Policy and Development Committee is bringing forward 5 items for consideration today. The first item is a land sale at 3723 Aldrich Avenue North. Second is a resolution authorizing issuance of tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue entitlement bonds for the renovation and rehab project at 2800 31st Street East, Trinity Apartments. Third item is authorizing amendments to various outstanding city homebuyer assistance loans. And the fourth item is accepting rather significant grants from the Metropolitan Council Livable Communities Demonstration Account and their Transit-Oriented Development Grant Awards that will help some significant projects in the city. And the fifth item is a staff direction to begin work on looking at funding options to support the preservation, repair, and creation of public housing. Item number 5 failed to pass through the committee but went forward without recommendation. It failed on a 3-3 vote. I have an amended version. This is with collecting feedback with further vetting with the mayor's office, but also with the interim director of public housing, and it should be before you now. And I would like to move that amended item number 5 and the entire committee report.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the committee report, including the amended item for number 5. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask through the chair to Councilmember Gordon if there could be some clarification around the impact of the implementation of the Section 18 for scattered site housing and beginning the process of transferring it from the portfolio from one funding stream to the other in order to access those dollars. I'm just curious if that impacts the timeline at all. This is a particular issue in my ward. We have a very large concentration of scattered site housing, so I'm just curious as to the impact on the MPHA's plan to roll that out.
Councilmember Gordon, do you want to respond?
So this staff direction is entirely distinct from that process, and it would have absolutely no impact on that. We did have on our agenda another item that would have had impact that was, I would say, soundly defeated by the committee. And so this is a separate issue, looking at kind of from a more high level about the general thing, and this will have no impact on the timing whatsoever of the scattered site Section 18 efforts.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Madam President. I voted no in committee on this, but I will be supporting this today. I think there needs to be a very clear line about kind of the investment. I think what I'm hopeful after talking to the author and seeing the amendments and seeing the author work with Director Scott, there does need to be more information about like the funding sources that are going into public housing. I mean, it hopefully is no secret that public housing is drastically underfunded, and this is something that is a big part of housing that's needed throughout the city. So I think it is definitely a good thing that we are learning more about that, but we will need, I think that doesn't stop us from making sure that we're doing things the right way with the city's money.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman,
No on 5, aye on the remainder.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Reich,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Jenkins,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Orsandi,
Abstain on 5 and aye on the rest.
Cunningham,
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes in the report except for item number 5, which has 10 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention.
Thank you. That report carries. The next report will be from the Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee given by the Chair, Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee is bringing forward 5 items for approval today. The first is the reappointment of Velma Corbel to the position of Director of Civil Rights. Item number 2 is the reappointment of Gretchen Musican to the Commissioner of Health Department. Item number 3 is authorizing a memorandum with the United States Fund for UNICEF for the Child Friendly Cities Initiative. Item number 4 is directing the Office of Violence Prevention to convene and lead a work group tasked with developing a proposed community center plan to respond to critical incidents of violence in the city of Minneapolis. And item number 5 is a few staff directions related to the Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board's Youth Master Plan. I will note that there were 2 presentations, one on the Youth Master Plan and the other on the Office of Violence Prevention's Violence Prevention Fund program. So if folks are interested in learning more, you can find that on LIMS. And with that, I move those 5 items for approval.
Councilmember Cunningham has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Cunningham?
Thank you. I wanted to speak to the 2 reappointments. I'm very fortunate in being the chair of this committee because I have the good fortune of working with Director Corbel as well as Commissioner Musicant on a very, very regular basis. I'll start with Director Corbel, who I see as the full package that we want in a leader here at the city. First, her employees are motivated, they're supported, they feel that support from their leader, and they're happy. They enjoy the work that they do. They're passionate about that work, and it shows up every single time I talk to any of the employees. They're all in, and that is really from the top down. She also cares about the day-to-day work. And that can be really intricate when it comes to ensuring that our city's residents' civil rights are protected. And so she cares about the good implementation of the day-to-day work, which really matters. And then one of the things that can be so challenging for leaders in government is to be able to hold a duality of holding the history of civil rights while also holding what's present and what's possible for the future in this field. And I am so grateful to be able to work with you, Director Corbel, across this whole package that you bring forward. And you are a phenomenal leader, and we're very grateful to have you. In regards to Commissioner Musicant, I am very grateful to work with her as well. Much like the Civil Rights Department, and maybe even a little bit more so, the Health Department has quite a robust portfolio of work that really stretches the gamut, from health inspections to youth development and adolescent sexual health to violence prevention, health lodging or lodging in pools. I mean, it really covers the gamut. Public health is a lens in which we look at all of the work that really happens in the city. And so her leadership is really critical in applying that lens across the city. She is a maximizer. She takes resources and relationships and is able to maximize that to be able to further the work. She is strategic when we give her direction or when she is when her employees have ideas that they want to bring forward. She's very responsive and thinks about it from a very strategic place. We are very lucky to have the 3 women who are up for reappointments, approval of their reappointments today, to have them at the helm of their departments, because it truly does make a difference, and we are lucky to have them as leaders in our city. So I just wanted to take the moment to give a special thank you to you both.
Thank you. Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President. Boy, I'm not sure if I can really state anything more eloquently than my colleague, Councilmember Cunningham. And so I just want to say I'm just really proud to be able to support and lift up the leadership of 3 women in our city who are leading with passion, forward thinking, and really demonstrating, I think, support for their employees and for the residents of the city of Minneapolis. So I'm happy to support these reappointments today.
Thank you. I put myself in queue to talk about the 2 director appointments, but before I do, I just want to say this committee agenda is a snapshot of how amazing the work is that's coming through this committee. I mean, we're the first city in the United States to become a child-friendly city. We have the Youth Master Plan, which had significant involvement, and I think involvement that is the kind that empowers folks as they get involved. Huge involvement and empowerment of youth in our city. We have the new community trauma response work group coming forward. So it's just, thank you, Councilmember Cunningham, for the leadership that you're providing to all this amazing work that's in this committee. I got the chance to talk with Director Corbel and Commissioner Musicant one-on-one to thank them personally at length for all of their leadership and work. But I did also want to just comment publicly how important your leadership is for our city. I think of both of you as mentors of my own and appreciate so much the institutional knowledge and experience that you bring to your roles. Commissioner Musicant is the longest serving director in our city, narrowly edging out our assessor, I think, for that distinction. And both of you, I think, are doing really deep community-based work. The Civil Rights Department is key to all of the work that we're doing to improve our policing in our city, to ensure that we're responsive to community, to add a huge new area of work in worker protections and enforcing our new worker protection laws, and doing so much deep work to make sure that everyone in our community is protected. The health department, I think, is doing some of the most extraordinary community-based work in our city, which reaches every aspect of public life. And as Councilmember Cunningham, I think, very eloquently stated. So thank you both so much. And I'm excited and glad that you want to stay with us, that your leadership will continue for the next couple of years. Appreciate you so much. Is there anything else on the peace agenda? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries, and that agenda is adopted. Next, we have a Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee report given by the Chair, Councilmember Kano.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, we have 3 items being brought forward to the full council from the Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee. Item number 1 is authorizing a contract with Logis for the Workforce Director System. Item number 2 is authorizing a contract with the Downtown Improvement District for the Minneapolis Downtown Improvement District Summer Police and Police Reserve Program. And item number 3 is a passage of a resolution accepting a gift from the Minneapolis Police K-9 Foundation for equipment, K-9 training, and travel-related costs. And I will move those items forward.
Councilmember Kano has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries. The report is adopted. Next is a report from the Transportation and Public Works Committee given by the Chair, Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee forwarded 7 items. Item 1 is the 4th Street resurfacing project approval and assessment. 2 is the Dorman South Residential Street resurfacing approval and assessment. 3 is the contract amendment with Global Specialty Contractors Incorporated for PV Plaza construction. 4 is the contract amendment with Swanson and Youngdale Incorporated for cleaning and coating of thickener tanks at the dewatering plant. 5 is the joint powers agreement with the City of Columbia Heights for the 37th Avenue Northeast Street resurfacing project. 6 is the bid for Hennepin Avenue Downtown Roadway Streetscape Reconstruction Project. And 7 is the 2020 Transit Equity Day Honorary Resolution. Madam President, I move all items for approval.
Councilmember Reich has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries. The report is adopted. Next is a report from the Ways and Means Committee given by the Chair, Councilmember Warsami.
Thank you, Madam President. The Ways and Means Committee brings 12 items for approval today. Item number 1 is a legal settlement of Brian Southwell versus City of Minneapolis. Item number 2 is a legal settlement of claim of Christine McPherson. Item number 3 is a legal settlement, and this is a workers' compensation claim of Paul Doherty. Item number 4 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Gerald Williams. Item number 5 is a legal settlement, another workers' compensation claim, and this is of William Allred. Item number 6 is a bid for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning air handler coil project at the Target Center. Item number 7 is a contract amendment with Premier Electrical Corporation for the Minneapolis Convention Center lighting update project. Item number 8 is a contract with Piper Sandler, RBC Capitals Markets LLC, Doherty and Co. LLC, and Robert W. Bird and Co. Incorporated for bond underwriting services. Item number 9 is an appointed position in the Finance Department, and this is the Manager of Investments and Debt Management. Item number 10 is an appointed position in the 911 Department, and this is the Director of Minneapolis Emergency Communication Center. Item number 11 is an appointed position in the City Coordinator's Office, and this is Deputy City Coordinator for Engagement. And item number 12 is a collective bargaining agreement for the Convention Center Production Technicians Unit, and this is from 2020 through 2022, and I move approval of all 12 items.
Councilmember Warsami has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That carries and the report is adopted. Next is a report from the Zoning and Planning Committee given by the Chair, Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Madam President. The Zoning and Planning Committee will bring forward 7 items for approval today. The first 2 are the denial of appeals at the property at 407 15th Avenue Southeast, 1412 and 1428 5th Street Southeast, and 1413 and 1417 4th Street Southeast. Number 3 is the denial of a rezoning at the same property. Number 4 and 5 are the granting of an appeal for 2 different locations. The findings of fact have been included for my colleagues to review. The first is the granting of the appeal at 3342 Nicollet Avenue, and the second is the granting of an appeal at 80818 West Broadway. Number 6 is the passage of an ordinance for parkland dedication. And number 7 is the passage of an ordinance regulating the existence of off-premises advertising signs and billboards near regional sports facilities. If I could, I will move all for approval, and I'd like to speak briefly on 4 and 5.
Councilmember Schrader has moved the committee report. Please go ahead, Councilmember Schrader.
Sure, I know that there's been a little bit in the news about this. I would ask the city attorney to talk a little bit more about it. We had a more robust discussion at committee, just talking about this is one about the drive-throughs, and this mainly is about what our definition of kind of if they've met what an abandonment is, and really does not come into play with our ban on drive-throughs.
Right.
Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you, President Bender, Councilmember Schrader. That's correct. There's a standard that's established in the code that upon demonstration of a discontinuance of a nonconforming use, the appellants in this case have the opportunity to rebut that presumption by presenting clear and convincing evidence that that discontinuance was due to circumstances beyond their control. The appellant in this case presented an evidence packet of over 40 pages at the Board of Adjustment that's been available on the Board of Adjustment website since that time. And then after denial by the Board of Adjustment, renewed that argument at the Zoning and Planning Committee. And I should note that all land use appeals and appellants are by code allowed to present new evidence on appeal. That was actually not the case here. The evidence was exactly the same as presented before, but summarized in a new memo from the attorneys. And so I think it's not the question and the legal standard is not whether they could have done something to reestablish the use in the 1 year period. It's whether they demonstrated an intent to rebut that presumption, and that is the advice of the attorney's office that occurred here by clear and convincing evidence.
Thank you. Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to state and express on behalf of some of the residents in both wards regarding these properties and the appeal that, you know, there's been concerns about the maintenance and the upkeep of the property, not only during its closure, but prior to its closures as well. And so I want to really just encourage the owners and proprietors, franchisees to respect the communities in which these drive-throughs exist. Doing business in the city of Minneapolis is a privilege, and we just want them to uphold their commitments to our broader communities.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the zoning and planning agenda? Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Bender. I just wanted to speak briefly to items 1 and 2 and just really thank the committee for doing the work that you did on this item. This is, I think, this has been a really interesting discussion about how we're going to implement the comp plan, about how much people can trust the comp plan, right? We passed the 2040 plan, and we know that on any given parcel, people may disagree about what should or shouldn't have been in the comp plan, but what we do want is for people to be able to trust that what is in that plan is what we're going to approve. And I think this was, something where the Planning Commission had told them the FAR was too high. They came back with the same FAR. I understand why we didn't get to yes on this. We definitely want this site developed. This is something that was hard to let go a little bit because it is such a potentially transformative site for development, and I don't think there's going to be necessarily uniform agreement about what should happen and what level of density we should allow, but I think we got to a good decision here that should reassure people, whether they think we didn't allow enough or whether they think we allowed too much in the plan, that we are going to stick to the plan. That we are operating in a way that's hopefully transparent and predictable and reduces people's anxiety about variances and what changes might happen in their neighborhoods. So I appreciate the thought that everybody put into this. I know this was a big topic of discussion over the last few weeks, and I think we got to the right outcome, even if I'm a little regretful that that the developer didn't bring something back that we could get to yes on.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I'll put myself in queue now. I can't help but say, I do think another piece that was really illuminated during the discussion during zoning and planning is how much work there really is left to do to enumerate and codify exactly what the comprehensive plan does say, and having for the very first time in our city a new built form map, covering literally every single parcel in the city. I know that we will also expect there to be adjustment to that plan going forward. I think any claim of perfection on the first try of a citywide map would be disingenuous. And so I know I very much take to heart the overall goal of creating predictability. And I think a lot of that will come over the next number of years as we start to codify our expectations around community investment, where we start to articulate what we mean by environmentally friendly building, knowing, of course, that replacing a drive-through business with a apartment building in a very transit-oriented, walkable neighborhood would be an environmental benefit. So I think there's a lot of work to do, a lot of work underway, and appreciate very much all the council members who are digging into those important details of the plan. Anything further? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
No on 4 and 5, aye on the remainder.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye on 1 through 6, no on 7.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye on 1 through 6, no on 7.
There are 12 ayes on the report except for item 4, which has 11 ayes and 1 nay, number 5, which has 11 ayes and 1 nay, and item number 7, which has 10 ayes and 2 nays.
Thank you. Those items all carry, and that completes the zoning and planning report. Next, we have the reports from special committees, and we do have a report today from the audit committee given by the chair, Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's 2 items coming from Audit Committee for Council's consideration this morning. They're both from our regular audit plan. The first is to refer a letter from our city clerk for the summary of our MPD automated license plate reader audit summary report, and the second is to do the same for our body-worn camera report, both of those to go to the appropriate agencies within the state of Minnesota. In case you're interested, in both instances, our city is fully compliant with state law.
Thank you.
Both of those for.
Is there any discussion on the audit report, which Councilmember Palmisano has moved? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
Those carries and the report is adopted. The next order of business is the notice of ordinance introductions. This morning we have 2 notices to give. First, we have a notice from Councilmember Goodman of her intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 13 of the code related to the administrative issuance of licenses. Second, we have a notice from Councilmember Goodman of her intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 14 of the code related to liquor catering licensing. Are there any questions on those 2 notices? Seeing none, those notices are given and no further action is required. The next order of business is our introduction and referral calendar, and we have 2 items today. First, there's a motion by Councilmember Goodman pursuant to previous notice to introduce, give first reading to, and refer to the Housing Policy and Development Committee the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 16 of the code by adding a new Article 4 entitled Summit House Housing Improvement Area to establish that area to impose fees to pay for housing improvements in the area. Are there any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That carries, and the ordinance will be referred to the Housing Policy and Development Committee in the next cycle. Second, we have a motion from Councilmember Johnson pursuant to previous notice to introduce, give first reading to, and refer to the Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 10 of the Code by amending various food catering provisions in chapters 186 and 188. Are there any questions from council members? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries, and the ordinance will be referred to the Peace Committee in the next cycle. Finally, we have the order of announcements. Are there any announcements from council members? Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to briefly share that the UNICEF USA Child Friendly Cities MOU that we passed today will be signed by Mayor Fry at 2:30 in City Hall Room 333. And with due respect, Madam President, actually we are the first city in North America. Yes. So, so that's pretty exciting. And so, we are the first city that will be signing the MOU. We are on track to be the first city with the designation. So I invite my colleagues to join us at 2:30 in room 333, as the mayor signs this work forward. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we've concluded the regular business on our agenda. We do have a closed session today to discuss the litigation matter of Walter Lewis Franklin II versus Lucas Peterson et al. May I have a motion to adjourn to that closed session?
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That carries, and we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.